The bullet tore through the mail coach window just as Zara Owens reached for her traveling case, missing her head by inches and embedding itself in the wooden frame with a sharp crack that made her ears ring. "Get down!" Someone shouted, and strong hands grabbed her shoulders, pulling her to the floor of the lurching stagecoach as more gunfire erupted around them. The year was 1878, and the road from Denver to Wichita, Kansas had a reputation for danger that Zara had foolishly dismissed when booking her passage. The coach driver cracked his whip, urging the horses faster, but the bandits were gaining ground. Zara could hear their whoops and hollers getting closer, the thunder of hooves matching the pounding of her heart. The woman beside her, a portly matron in brown traveling clothes, had fainted clean away, her head lolling against the seat. Zara pressed herself against the floor, splinters digging into her palms as the coach careened around a bend. She was 22 years old, educated at a finishing school in Boston, and completely unprepared for this. The trip west had been her idea, her grand plan to escape the suffocating expectations of her family and make something of herself as a teacher in the frontier towns that desperately needed educated women. Now she wondered if she would even survive to see Wichita. Another shot rang out, followed by a cry of pain. The coach jerked violently to one side, and Zara heard the driver curse. They were slowing down. Her stomach dropped as she realized what that meant. The bandits had hit one of the horses, or worse, the driver himself. The coach came to a shuddering halt, tilting at an odd angle. Dust billowed through the broken window, making Zara cough. She heard boots hitting the ground, rough voices demanding compliance. 3 men, maybe 4. Her fingers found the small derringer her father had insisted she carry, tucked in the pocket of her traveling dress. It held 2 bullets. Against 4 armed bandits, it might as well be a toy. The door was yanked open, flooding the dim interior with harsh afternoon sunlight. A bearded man with yellowed teeth peered inside, his eyes scanning over the unconscious matron before settling on Zara with an expression that made her skin crawl. "Well now, what do we have here?" he drawled, reaching for her. Zara raised the derringer with shaking hands. "Stay back." The man laughed, a sound like gravel scraping against metal. "Little lady thinks she can." The crack of a rifle cut him off mid-sentence. The bandit's hat flew from his head, and he stumbled backward with a yelp of surprise. More shots followed in rapid succession, coming from somewhere behind the coach. The bandits scattered, returning fire at this new threat. Zara seized the opportunity to scramble deeper into the coach, pressing herself against the far wall. Through the broken window, she caught glimpses of a rider approaching at full gallop, a tall figure in dark clothing on a paint horse. He moved with the easy confidence of someone born to the saddle, his rifle firing with deadly accuracy. One of the bandits went down. Another turned to run, but the mysterious rider cut him off, forcing him back toward his companions. "Drop your weapons," the rider's voice rang out, deep and commanding. "Do it now, or the next shot won't be a warning." There was a tense moment of silence. Zara held her breath. Then, one by one, she heard the clatter of guns hitting the dirt. The rider dismarched, keeping his rifle trained on the bandits. "Face down on the ground," he ordered. "Hands behind your heads." As the bandits complied, muttering curses, the rider moved closer to the coach. Zara finally got a good look at him. He was young, probably no more than 25, with sun-weathered skin and sharp features beneath the brim of his hat. Dark hair fell past his collar, and his eyes were an unexpected pale blue, startling against his tanned face. A tin star glinted on his vest. "Anyone hurt in there?" he called out, his voice softer now. Zara found her voice. "The lady has fainted, and I think the driver may be injured." "Stay inside a moment while I secure these men," he said, already moving around to check on the driver. She watched through the window as he worked efficiently, using rope from his saddle to bind the bandit's hands. He moved with practiced ease, clearly accustomed to this kind of situation. When he climbed up to the driver's seat, Zara heard a groan. "Just winged your arm, Charlie," the lawman said. "You will be all right, but you will need to get that looked at." "Obliged, Owen," the driver rasped. "Thought we were done for." Owen. So that was his name. Zara tucked the information away as she tried to rouse the unconscious woman beside her. The matron came around slowly, blinking in confusion. "What happened? Are we dead?" "No, madam, we are safe now. A lawman saved us." The door opened again, and this time Zara felt no fear as Owen Hayes appeared in the opening. He had pushed his hat back, and she could see his face more clearly now. There was kindness in those blue eyes, despite the hardness that frontier life had clearly etched into his features. "Ladies, if you can manage, I need to get you all to Wichita. It is only about 5 miles further. The driver can make it that far, but he needs a doctor." Zara took the hand he offered, stepping down from the tilted coach. Her legs were unsteady beneath her, whether from fear or the long hours of travel she could not say. When she stumbled, his other hand came up to steady her, gripping her elbow with gentle firmness. "Easy now," he said. "You have had quite a shock." "Thank you," Zara managed, meeting his eyes. "You saved our lives." "Just doing my job, miss. I am Owen Hayes, Deputy Marshal out of Wichita." Zara Owens. "I was on my way there, actually, to take up a teaching position." Something shifted in his expression at that, a flicker of interest that he quickly masked. "Well then, Miss Owens, welcome to Kansas. Sorry your introduction to the territory was not more pleasant." He helped the matron down as well, then set about checking the horses and assessing the damage to the coach. One horse had indeed been shot, though not fatally. The wound would need tending, but they could make it to town if they went slowly. The bandits he secured to the back of the coach with more rope, making sure they could walk but could not escape. As Owen worked, Zara found herself watching him. There was something compelling about the way he moved, efficient and sure, wasting no motion. He spoke gently to the injured horse, examining the wound with careful hands. A man who was kind to animals was usually a good man, her mother had always said. "We will need to go slowly," Owen announced, coming back to where Zara and the matron waited in the shade of the coach. "I can ride ahead and bring back help if you prefer, but I would rather not leave you unguarded. There might be more of this gang around." "We will manage," Zara said quickly. The thought of him leaving, even temporarily, sent an unexpected flutter of anxiety through her chest. The driver, Charlie, had managed to bind his wounded arm with a strip of cloth torn from his shirt. He was pale but determined. "I can handle the reins with one hand if we go easy." Owen nodded. "I will lead the way then. Keep your eyes open. Sing out if you see anything suspicious." They set off slowly, the coach swaying and creaking. Owen rode ahead on his paint horse, constantly scanning the horizon. Zara noticed he kept glancing back, checking on them. Each time his eyes met hers through the window, she felt that same strange flutter. The matron had recovered enough to chatter nervously, filling the silence with talk about her married daughter in Wichita and her terrible fear of Indians and outlaws. Zara made appropriate noises of agreement, but could not focus on the woman's words. Her mind kept returning to those moments when Owen had pulled her from the coach, his hands strong and steady, his voice calm in the chaos. She barely knew him. Logic told her this attraction was simply gratitude, the natural response to being saved. Yet something deeper stirred in her chest when she looked at him, something she had never felt for the polished gentleman her parents had paraded before her in Boston. The sun was lowering toward the horizon when the buildings of Wichita finally came into view. It was larger than Zara had expected, a proper town with wood frame buildings lining wide dirt streets. Cattle pens stretched to the south, and she could see the railway depot in the distance. This was a real cattle town, rough and busy with the commerce of the frontier. Owen led them directly to the doctor's office, helping Charlie down from the driver's seat and supporting him through the door. Then he returned for the ladies, offering his hand first to the matron, then to Zara. "I need to take these prisoners to the jail," he said, gesturing to the bound bandits. "But I can arrange for someone to take you to the hotel, Miss Owens. Unless you have other accommodations arranged, the hotel will be fine," Zara said. "I have a letter of introduction to the school board chairman, but I was not expected until tomorrow." "That would be Samuel Pritchard. Good man. I will make sure he knows you have arrived." Owen paused, and Zara thought she saw reluctance in his face. "I hope the rest of your time in Wichita proves more peaceful than your arrival. Thank you again, Deputy Hayes. I am truly grateful for what you did today." He touched the brim of his hat, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Welcome to Wichita, Miss Owens." Then he was swinging back into his saddle, gathering the ropes that bound the prisoners, and leading them down the street toward what must be the jail. Zara watched until he turned a corner and disappeared from view. The hotel was clean if modest, and the proprietress, a sharp-eyed woman named Mrs. Henderson, took Zara in hand with brisk efficiency. Soon she found herself in a small room on the second floor, her traveling case delivered by a helpful boy from the stage line. She sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted as the events of the day caught up with her. She had nearly died today. That bullet had come so close. If Owen had not arrived when he did, she shuddered to think what might have happened. The bearded bandit's eyes had held such ugly promise. Instead, she was safe in a clean room in Wichita, about to begin the adventure she had longed for. And she could not stop thinking about a blue-eyed deputy marshal who had appeared like some hero from a dime novel. She was being ridiculous. Zara stood and began unpacking her case, trying to focus on practical matters. Tomorrow she would meet with Mr. Pritchard, tour the school, and begin making arrangements for her new life. She had not come west to moon over the first handsome man who crossed her path, even if he had saved her life, even if his smile had made her heart skip. She was still sternly lecturing herself when a knock came at the door. Zara opened it to find Mrs. Henderson holding a tray with a simple dinner of stew and bread. "Thought you might be hungry after your ordeal," the woman said. "News travels fast in a town like this. Everyone is talking about how Deputy Hayes rescued the stage from Zeke Walker's gang. Is that who they were? Terrible bunch. Been plaguing this area for months. You were lucky Owen was out on patrol in that direction." Mrs. Henderson set the tray on the small table by the window. "He is a good man, our deputy. Come here about 3 years ago, worked his way up from cattle hand to lawman. Folks respect him." Zara tried to sound casual. "Does he have family here?" "A younger sister, Emma. Sweet girl, works at the general store. Their parents died crossing the plains when they were young. Owen raised Emma himself, which is why he is so serious sometimes. Had to grow up fast." Mrs. Henderson moved toward the door, then paused. "He does not court much, despite every unmarried girl in town setting her cap for him. Married to his job, I suppose, though he is only 24, plenty of time yet." After the woman left, Zara sat by the window eating the stew without really tasting it. 24, only 2 years older than herself. Raised his sister alone after losing his parents. No wonder there was that gravity about him, that sense of someone who had shouldered heavy burdens young. She told herself it did not matter. She had her own life to build here, her own purpose. Teaching children, making a difference in this frontier community. Romance had never been part of her plan. That was precisely why she had fled Boston and the endless stream of suitable young men her mother kept introducing, each one more tedious than the last. But Owen Hayes had not seemed tedious. Even in the brief time she had spent with him, she had sensed depths beneath the surface. The way he had gentled that injured horse, the patience in his voice when he spoke to Charlie, the deadly efficiency with which he had dealt with the bandits. A man of contrasts. Sleep came fitfully that night, her dreams full of gunfire and blue eyes and strong hands pulling her to safety. Morning brought clearer skies and clearer thinking. Zara dressed in her best day dress, a sensible dark blue cotton, and pinned her auburn hair in a neat arrangement. She looked professional, competent. Exactly the image she wanted to project to the school board chairman. Mr. Pritchard turned out to be a jovial man in his 50s with a magnificent mustache and a genuine enthusiasm for education. His office was above the mercantile, and he welcomed Zara with warm handshakes and immediately began showing her around. "We have 43 students currently," he explained as they walked toward the schoolhouse. "Ages 6 through 16, all in one room as you would expect. The last teacher, Miss Pemberton, married a rancher and moved 20 miles out of town. We have been managing with volunteers, but we desperately need someone with proper training." The schoolhouse was a simple frame building with good windows that would provide plenty of light. Inside, desks of various sizes were arranged in rows. A pot-bellied stove sat in one corner, and a substantial blackboard covered the front wall. It was everything Zara had hoped for. "It is perfect," she said sincerely. "Excellent. You can start Monday if that suits you. The salary is $45 a month, plus you will have use of the teacher's cottage just behind the school. It is small but adequate for one person." They were discussing curriculum when the door opened and Owen Hayes stepped inside. Zara's heart gave that same foolish leap it had the previous day. "Morning, Mr. Pritchard," Owen said, then his eyes found Zara. "Miss Owens." "Deputy Hayes," she replied, proud that her voice came out steady. "What brings you here? I wanted to check that you had settled in all right. Yesterday was quite an ordeal. Thanks to you, I am perfectly fine. Mr. Pritchard has just been showing me the school. So you will be teaching our young ones." Something warm entered Owen's expression. "That is good news for Wichita," Mr. Pritchard beamed. "Indeed. Miss Owens comes highly recommended from Boston. Our children will benefit greatly from her expertise." They chatted for a few more minutes, polite and proper, but Zara was acutely aware of Owen's presence, the way he seemed to fill the small schoolhouse with his quiet strength. When he mentioned he needed to return to his duties and took his leave, the room felt emptier despite Mr. Pritchard's continued cheerful chatter. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Zara moved into the teacher's cottage, a cozy 2-room structure with a small kitchen and a bedroom just large enough for a bed and wardrobe. She spent hours in the schoolhouse, organizing materials and preparing lesson plans. The townspeople were welcoming, and she met several mothers who were eager to discuss their children's education. She saw Owen twice more in that time. Once passing on the street, when he tipped his hat and asked how she was settling in. Once in the general store, where she finally met his sister Emma, a pretty girl of 17 with the same dark hair as her brother but warmer brown eyes. Emma was friendly and curious, asking Zara all about Boston and her journey west, seemingly delighted to have a new young woman in town. "Owen mentioned you were on the stage that got held up," Emma said as she wrapped Zara's purchases in brown paper. "How frightening that must have been." "Your brother arrived just in time," Zara said. "He was very brave." Emma smiled knowingly. He is always doing things like that. Sometimes I worry about him, out there chasing bandits and rustlers. But he says it is his duty to keep people safe. She leaned closer conspiratorially. He has not stopped talking about the new schoolteacher since that day. Ask me all sorts of questions about what you bought from the store, what people are saying about you. Zara felt heat rise in her cheeks. Has he? Do not tell him I told you. He would be mortified. My brother is not good at talking about his feelings. Emma handed over the wrapped parcels. You should come to church Sunday. Everyone will be there, and afterward there is usually a social. Good way to meet the whole community. Sunday arrived sunny and warm. Zara wore her best dress, a soft gray with touches of lace at the collar and cuffs, and walked to the white church at the center of town. The building was packed, families filling every pew. She found a seat near the back and tried to focus on the sermon, but her eyes kept drifting across the aisle to where Owen sat with Emma. He wore a dark suit instead of his usual work clothes, and his hair was neatly combed. When he glanced her way and caught her looking, she quickly turned her attention back to the minister, her cheeks burning. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw the corner of his mouth lift in what might have been a smile. After the service, the congregation moved outside for the social. Women had brought pies and cakes, and someone had set up tables in the churchyard. Children ran and played while adults clustered in conversation groups. Zara found herself surrounded by mothers asking about the school, fathers inquiring about her teaching methods, and young women curious about life in Boston. Through it all, she was aware of Owen standing with a group of men near the church steps, ostensibly in conversation but frequently glancing her way. Finally, as the crowd began to thin, he approached. "Miss Owens, I wonder if I might have a word." "Of course, Deputy." He led her a little away from the others, to a spot beneath a large cottonwood tree. Up close, she could see he was nervous, his hand coming up to adjust his string tie in an unconscious gesture. "I wanted to apologize," he said. Zara blinked in surprise. "Whatever for?" "I have been meaning to call on you properly to make sure you are truly settled and have everything you need, but my duties have kept me busy and He trailed off, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "The truth is, I have been trying to work up the nerve to check on me. The nerve to ask if you might allow me to call on you socially, if that would be appropriate." The words came out in a rush. "I know you are new to town and focused on your teaching position, and I am just a deputy marshal, not much to offer a lady of your education and background. But I would be honored if you would let me take you to dinner or perhaps a walk if you are amenable." Zara's heart was racing. "I would like that very much." Relief washed over his face. "Truly, truly. Though I should mention that I am not some delicate Boston lady looking for an easy life. I came west because I wanted something real, something meaningful. I find your profession admirable, Deputy Hayes." "Owen," he said quietly. "Please call me Owen. Only if you call me Zara." His smile transformed his whole face, chasing away the serious set of his features and revealing the young man beneath the hardened lawman. "It would be my pleasure, Zara." They arranged for him to call on her the following Tuesday evening after her first full day of school. As Zara walked back to her cottage later, she felt as though she were floating. She had come west seeking purpose and independence, never imagining she might find something else entirely. Monday morning arrived bright and early, and with it came her students. They filed into the schoolhouse in a chattering stream, children of all ages and sizes. The youngest was 6-year-old Timothy Chen, son of the Chinese laundry owner, his black hair sticking up in tufts despite obvious attempts to tame it. The oldest was 16-year-old Margaret Sullivan, a tall girl with capable hands who clearly would rather be anywhere else. Zara stood at the front of the classroom and felt her nervousness transform into excited energy. This was why she had come west. This was her purpose. Good morning, students. I am Miss Owens, and I am delighted to be your new teacher. The day flew by in a blur of names and faces, assessments and organization. Some children were advanced readers, others struggled with basic letters. Mathematical abilities ranged from simple counting to complex multiplication. Zara made notes, planned groupings, began to see how she could structure lessons to reach them all. By the time she dismissed them that afternoon, she was exhausted but exhilarated. This would be challenging work, but it would be rewarding. Already she could see the potential in these young minds. The next evening, Owen arrived at her cottage exactly on time, freshly shaved and wearing a clean shirt. He had brought wildflowers, a bouquet of prairie blooms in purple and gold. "I am not sure what Boston gentlemen bring when they court," he said, offering them somewhat shyly. "But these grow on the land I hope to own someday, and I thought they were pretty." "They are beautiful," Zara said, genuinely touched. "Much nicer than hothouse roses." They walked through town as the sun set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. Owen pointed out various buildings and businesses, telling her about the people who ran them. He spoke about Wichita's growth, how it had transformed from a small trading post to a thriving cattle town in just a few years. "It is a good place," he said. "Growing pains and rough edges, sure, but good people trying to build something lasting." "Is that why you became a lawman?" "To help build it, partly. Also because I needed steady work to support Emma, and I happened to be decent with a gun." He was quiet for a moment. "After our parents died, we had nothing. I was 14, Emma was 7. We could have ended up in an orphanage, split up. Instead, I lied about my age and got work as a ranch hand. Learned everything I could. By the time I was 18, I was good enough with horses and cattle to earn decent wages. But being a deputy pays better and is more stable. Let me save for Emma's future. She seems like a wonderful girl." "She is. Smart, too. I have been putting money aside for her to go to a proper school someday if she wants, or for a dowry if she chooses to marry. I want her to have choices." The love in his voice when he spoke of his sister touched Zara deeply. "You have done well by her, Owen." "I have done my best." They had reached the edge of town, where the buildings gave way to open prairie. In the fading light, Zara could see for miles, the land rolling away in gentle waves. It was so different from Boston's crowded streets and tall buildings. Here, the sky felt enormous, full of possibilities. "What about your family?" Owen asked. "Do they approve of you coming west?" "My father was against it, my mother horrified. They had plans for me to marry well, maybe a banker's son or a young lawyer. The idea of me teaching in some frontier town appalled them." Zara turned to face him. "But I could not bear the thought of that life. Endless tea parties and social calls, marrying some man who saw me as an ornament rather than a person. I wanted to do something that mattered." "Teaching matters," Owen said firmly. "Half those children would not get any real education without you. You are giving them chances they would not otherwise have." "That is what I told my parents. We parted on difficult terms, I am afraid. They have not written since I left." Without thinking, Owen reached out and took her hand. The gesture was simple, comforting, but the touch sent warmth flooding through Zara's entire body. "I am sorry," he said. "Families should support each other." She looked down at their joined hands, his calloused and strong, hers smaller and pale against his sun-darkened skin. It felt right, natural, as though their hands belonged together. "Some families we are born into," she said softly. "Others we build for ourselves." When she looked up, his blue eyes were intense on hers. He took a half step closer, still holding her hand. "Zara, I know we have only just met, but I feel like I have been waiting for you. Does that sound crazy?" "No," she whispered. "It does not sound crazy at all." He lifted his free hand, hesitating for just a moment before gently cupping her cheek. His thumb brushed across her skin with infinite tenderness. Then he was leaning down, giving her every chance to pull away, and when she did not, his lips met hers in a kiss so sweet it made her chest ache. It was nothing like the one stolen kiss she had experienced back in Boston, a clumsy, fumbling thing with a boy at a party. This was tender and searching, Owen's lips warm and sure against hers. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. "I should not have done that," he murmured. "Too fast, too soon." "Do not you dare apologize for that kiss," Zara said, and she heard him laugh quietly. "Yes, madam." They walked back to her cottage hand in hand, speaking little but comfortable in the silence. At her door, Owen lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. "May I see you again, soon? I would be disappointed if you did not." She watched from her window as he walked back into town, her fingers touching her lips, still feeling the ghost of that kiss. The weeks that followed fell into a pattern that felt like happiness. Zara taught during the days, pouring her energy into her students. Young Timothy was proving to be remarkably quick with numbers. Margaret Sullivan, once she got over her initial reluctance, revealed a talent for writing. The middle children kept her busy with their boundless energy and constant questions. In the evenings and on Sundays, there was Owen. They walked together, talked for hours, shared meals. She met his friends on the town council and fellow lawmen. He attended a recital her students performed, sitting in the front row and applauding enthusiastically. They did not kiss again for 2 weeks, both dancing around that growing attraction with a caution born of knowing how serious this was becoming. When they finally did, standing behind the schoolhouse under a full moon, it was even better than the first time. Owen pulled her close, one hand tangling in her hair as he deepened the kiss, and Zara felt herself melting into him. "I am falling in love with you," he said against her lips. "I think I started the moment I saw you in that stagecoach, brave and scared and pointing that tiny derringer at a man twice your size." "I love you too," Zara whispered back. "I did not come west looking for this, but I found it anyway." 3 months after her arrival in Wichita, Owen asked her to marry him. They were sitting by the creek at the edge of town, watching the water flow past, when he pulled a simple gold band from his pocket. "It was my mother's," he said. "The only thing of hers I kept. I want you to have it if you will have me. I know I am not what your parents wanted for you, and my life is not fancy or easy, but I will love you with everything I have, Zara. I will work hard to give you a good life, to support your teaching, to build a future together, if you will say yes." She was holding his hand tightly, and as she looked into his earnest blue eyes, she felt the rightness of this moment settle into her bones. This was what she had been searching for without knowing it. Not just purpose or independence, but partnership. A man who saw her as an equal, who valued her work, who loved her for exactly who she was. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I will marry you." Owen held her hand tighter and never let go as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he was kissing her, pouring 4 months of love and longing into it, and Zara kissed him back with equal fervor. When they finally broke apart, both were grinning like fools. "How soon?" Owen asked. "I do not want to wait long." "Neither do I, after the school term ends in June. That gives us 2 months to prepare, and then I will have the summer to settle into being a wife before the fall term starts." "June," Owen agreed. "I will build us a house. Nothing fancy at first, but solid and weatherproof. I have been saving for years, and I have land picked out just past the edge of town. Good water, room for a garden, maybe some chickens. It sounds perfect." They walked back to town as twilight fell, making plans and dreaming aloud. Emma was delighted when they told her, immediately beginning to plan the wedding celebration. Mr. Pritchard congratulated them warmly and assured Zara that marriage would not affect her teaching position, at least not until children came along, and even then, they would work something out. The town embraced the news enthusiastically. Owen was well liked, and Zara had won people over with her dedication to the children. The women immediately began organizing, insisting on helping with everything from the dress to the food for the reception. Zara wrote to her parents informing them of her engagement. She tried to explain what Owen meant to her, the life they were building together, but she did not expect understanding. Still, she hoped they might at least acknowledge it. The reply came 6 weeks later, a terse note from her father. They did not approve, could not support this reckless decision, and unless she came to her senses and returned home, they considered the matter closed. There would be no blessing, no attendance at the wedding, no relationship moving forward. Zara read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and put it away. It hurt less than she expected. She had chosen her path, and she would not regret it. Owen found her that evening sitting in the schoolhouse, staring at nothing. He read the pain in her face immediately and crossed to her side. "What happened?" she told him, fighting to keep her voice steady. When she finished, Owen gathered her into his arms, holding her close. "I am sorry," he said quietly. "I know you hoped for better. I knew it was unlikely, I just wished." She trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. "But it does not change anything. I choose you, Owen. I choose this life we are building. I will spend every day making sure you never regret that choice." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Owen worked every spare moment on their house, aided by friends who donated time and materials. Zara watched it take shape, a sturdy frame structure with 2 bedrooms, a parlor, and a good-sized kitchen. It was not large, but it was theirs, built with love and effort. Her wedding dress was a simple cream-colored gown with lace overlay, made by the town's seamstress with input from half the women in Wichita. Emma made her a bouquet of those same wildflowers Owen had brought on their first walk, mixing prairie blooms with cultivated flowers from various gardens. The ceremony took place in the church on a perfect June morning. Zara walked down the aisle alone, head high, to where Owen waited at the front. He looked impossibly handsome in his best suit, his eyes locked on her as though she were the only person in the world. Reverend Mitchell performed the ceremony, his words solemn and meaningful. When it came time for the vows, Owen took both of Zara's hands in his voice steady and sure. "I, Owen Hayes, take you, Zara Owens, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I promise to love you, honor you, support your dreams, and stand by your side through whatever comes. From this day forward, for better or worse, in sickness and health, as long as we both shall live." Zara repeated her vows, her voice clear despite the happy tears threatening to spill over. "I, Zara Owens, take you, Owen Hayes, to be my lawfully wedded husband. I promise to love you, honor you, believe in you, and build a life with you. From this day forward, for better or worse, in sickness and health, as long as we both shall live." Owen slipped a matching gold band onto her finger, and she did the same for him. Then the reverend pronounced them husband and wife, and Owen pulled her into a kiss that made the whole congregation cheer. The reception was held in the church hall, with enough food to feed twice the number of people. There was music and dancing, toasts and laughter. Emma cried happy tears and hugged Zara fiercely. Mr. Pritchard made a speech about the importance of education and family. The sheriff, Owen's boss, clapped him on the back and told ribald jokes that made the older women tusk disapprovingly while hiding smiles. Through it all, Owen kept Zara close, his hand finding hers constantly. She was holding his hand tightly when they cut the cake together, and the cowboy held tighter and never let go as they fed each other bites amid the cheering crowd. As evening fell and guests began to drift home, Emma hugged them both one more time. "Be happy," she said simply. "You deserve it." "You are welcome any time," Zara told her. "This is still your home too. I know. But tonight is for you too. I will be fine at the boarding house for now." Owen drove them to the new house in a borrowed wagon, their few possessions already moved in. He lifted Zara down from the seat, then surprised her by sweeping her into his arms and carrying her across the threshold. She laughed, clinging to his neck. "Traditional," she teased. "Some traditions are worth keeping." He set her down gently in what would be their bedroom. Someone, probably Emma, had been there earlier. Candles flickered on the dresser, and the bed was made up with fresh linens and a quilt. The windows were open to let in the cool evening breeze, carrying with it the scent of prairie grass and wildflowers. Owen cupped her face in his hands, his touch infinitely gentle. "Are you sure about this? About me?" In answer, Zara rose on her toes and kissed him, pouring all her love and certainty into it. His arms came around her, holding her close, and she felt his heart beating against hers. This was right. This was home. Their wedding night was tender and passionate, a discovery of each other that left them both breathless and awed. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the moonlight streaming through the window, Zara's head on Owen's chest as his fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. "I love you," he said quietly into the darkness. "More than I have words for. I love you too. This life we are starting, it is everything I hoped for but was afraid to believe could be real. It is real. We will make it real together every day." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, and woke to bright sunshine and the knowledge that this was just the beginning. The summer passed in a haze of happiness. Zara had her days free from teaching, so she spent them making their house a home, learning to cook on the wood stove, planting a vegetable garden. Owen continued his work as deputy, but he arranged his schedule so they had evenings together. They would sit on their front porch as the sun set, talking about their days, making plans for the future. Emma visited often, delighted to have a sister and a home to come to. She and Zara grew close, and Zara found herself grateful for the family she had gained, even as the loss of her own parents still sometimes ached. By August, Zara knew she was pregnant. She had suspected for a few weeks but waited to be certain before telling Owen. She chose a Sunday afternoon when they were alone in the house, sitting together in the parlor. "I have news," she said, taking his hand and placing it over her still flat stomach. "We are going to have a baby. In March, I think." The expression that crossed Owen's face was pure joy mixed with wonder and a touch of fear. "A baby, truly, truly. Are you happy?" Happy does not begin to cover it. He pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully as though she might break. "A child, our child." "Zara, you have given me everything." They told Emma that same evening, and she shrieked with delight, already planning how she would help with the baby. The news spread through town quickly, and Zara found herself on the receiving end of advice from every woman who had ever had a child. Some of it was helpful, some completely contradictory, all of it well-meant. Mr. Pritchard assured her she could continue teaching as long as she felt able, and they would find a temporary replacement when the time came. Zara taught through the fall, watching her waistline expand and feeling the first flutters of life inside her. Owen became even more protective, worrying when she was on her feet too long, insisting she rest more. "I am pregnant, not fragile," she reminded him gently. "I know." but you are carrying the most precious thing in the world, and I cannot help but worry." By January, Zara had to stop teaching, her expanding belly making it difficult to move around the classroom comfortably. A widow named Mrs. Patterson took over, a capable woman who had taught before. Zara spent her days preparing for the baby, sewing tiny clothes, and setting up the second bedroom as a nursery. Owen had been saving every spare cent, and he commissioned a beautiful cradle from the town carpenter, made of smooth oak with intricate carvings along the sides. When it was delivered, Zara cried happy tears. "It is perfect," she said, running her hands over the polished wood. March came with the first hints of spring. Zara was enormous and uncomfortable, eager to meet this child who kept kicking her ribs. Owen hardly slept, starting awake at every sound, convinced the baby was coming. Finally, on a bright March morning, her water broke. Emmer ran for the doctor while Owen helped Zara to bed, his face pale with worry. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the day and into the night. Owen refused to leave despite the doctor's suggestions that he wait elsewhere. He stayed by Zara's side, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with cool cloths, whispering encouragement. "You can do this," he said during a particularly hard contraction. "You are the strongest person I know." Zara was holding his hand tightly, so tightly she was probably hurting him, but Owen held tighter and never let go. His strength became her anchor through the pain and exhaustion. Just after midnight, their son was born. The doctor cleaned him up and placed him in Zara's arms, a perfect tiny human with a shock of dark hair and his father's blue eyes. Owen stared at his child with an expression of such profound love that Zara felt fresh tears spill down her cheeks. "He is beautiful," Owen whispered, touching one tiny hand with a gentle finger. The baby grasped it immediately, holding on with surprising strength. "What should we name him?" Zara asked. They had discussed names but never decided. Now, looking at their son, Owen said, "What about James?" "After your father, maybe. An olive branch. You would do that, after how they treated us. Maybe someday they will regret their choice. Maybe this little one will bring them around. Besides, it is a good, strong name." "James Owen Hayes," Zara said, trying it out. "I like it." Little James was a healthy, hungry baby who kept them both exhausted those first few months. Emma was an enthusiastic aunt, coming over constantly to help. The town rallied around them with food and gifts and advice. Zara had never felt so supported by a community. When James was 3 months old, Zara wrote to her parents again, enclosing a photograph of their grandson that the traveling photographer had taken. She did not expect a response, so she was shocked when a letter arrived 6 weeks later. Her mother's handwriting was shaky, filled with words of regret and longing. They had been wrong, she wrote, too proud and stubborn. The photograph of their grandson had broken through her father's resistance. They wanted to know their daughter again, to meet their son-in-law and grandchild. Would Zara ever forgive them? Zara cried as she read it, and Owen held her and James both, letting her work through the complicated emotions. Relief and anger and love all mixed together. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to write back. I want them to know James, to know you. But I need them to understand that this is my home now, our life here. I will not go back to being who they wanted me to be." Then tell them that. Set your boundaries. If they truly want back in your life, they will respect them. The correspondence that followed was cautious at first, tentative. But gradually, over the months, a relationship rebuilt itself. Her parents sent gifts for James, and eventually, when he was a year old, they made the long journey west to visit. The meeting was awkward at first. Zara's father was stiff and formal, clearly uncomfortable in these frontier surroundings. Her mother wept and apologized repeatedly. But James, with the perfect timing of a child, charmed them both completely. And Owen, with his quiet dignity and obvious love for Zara, slowly won them over. By the end of their 2-week visit, Zara's father shook Owen's hand with genuine respect. "You have built a good life for my daughter, better than I understood. I was wrong about you and I apologize." "I appreciate that, sir. Zara is the best thing that ever happened to me. I will spend my life making her happy." After they left, Zara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had her family back, both the one she had been born into and the one she had created. It felt like a blessing. The years flowed by, full and busy. James grew into a bright, energetic boy with his father's sense of justice and his mother's love of learning. When he was 3, Zara gave birth to twin girls, Emma and Rose, identical beauties with their mother's auburn hair. 2 years after that came another son, Thomas, quieter than James but with a mind that constantly asked questions. Owen's career progressed. When the old sheriff retired, Owen was appointed to take his place. The increase in salary allowed them to expand the house, adding more bedrooms and a larger parlor. Zara eventually returned to teaching part-time, her children sitting in her classroom alongside the other students. Emma married a good man, a banker named David who adored her. They gave Owen and Zara nieces and nephews, expanding the family further. Sunday dinners became loud, chaotic affairs with children running everywhere and adults talking over each other, and Zara would not have traded it for anything. The town grew and changed around them. Wichita became a real city, with proper buildings and services. The wild edges got tamed somewhat, though there was still plenty of work for a sheriff. Owen handled it all with the same steady capability he brought to everything. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Owen took Zara back to the creek where he had proposed. They sat on the bank, watching the water flow past, their hands intertwined. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "Giving up your Boston life for this one?" "Never, not for a single moment." Zara squeezed his hand. "This life, with you, our children, our community, it is everything I ever wanted and more. You are everything I ever wanted." "I loved you from the first moment I saw you," Owen said, pointing that Derringer with shaking hands, trying so hard to be brave. "I knew right then that you were special. I loved you when you helped me down from that coach, when your hands were so gentle and your eyes so kind. I did not know it yet, but I felt it." They kissed as the sun set, the same sweet connection that had been there from the beginning, only deeper now, richer with years of shared life. More years passed. Their children grew. James decided to follow his father into law enforcement, becoming a deputy at 20. The twins were inseparable, both of them talented artists who scandalized the town slightly by insisting on attending art school in Denver. Thomas became a teacher like his mother, taking over her classroom when she finally retired at 50. Owen and Zara grew older together, silver threading through their hair, lines deepening around their eyes. But the love between them never dimmed. They still walked together in the evenings, still talked for hours, still reached for each other in the night. When they were 60, they celebrated their anniversary with their children, grandchildren, and Emma's family. A gathering of 30 people who filled their house to bursting. Looking around at all the faces, all the love they had created and nurtured, Zara felt overwhelmed with gratitude. That night, lying in bed with Owen's arms around her, she said, "We have had a good life." "The best life," Owen agreed. "And it is not over yet. We still have years ahead." They did. Years of watching grandchildren grow, of welcoming great-grandchildren, of serving their community and each other. Owen eventually retired from being sheriff, but remained a respected voice in town. Zara volunteered at the school, reading to children and helping with lessons. They were 72 years old, married for 50 years, when Owen woke Zara one morning with kisses. "What are you doing?" she asked, laughing. "Loving my wife. Is there a better way to start the day?" They made love slowly, tenderly, bodies that knew each other intimately after so many years. Afterward, lying in the sunlight streaming through their window, Owen took her hand. "I want you to know," he said seriously, "that every day with you has been a gift. You made my life worth living, Zara. You gave me love and family and purpose. Whatever happens, however many days or years we have left, I want you to know that. I know, and I feel the same way about you." She lifted their joined hands, looking at the wedding rings they still wore, worn smooth by decades. "You held my hand that very first day when I was so scared, and you have never let go." "Never," Owen promised. "Not in this life or the next." They had 12 more good years together. Years of joy and some sadness, as old friends passed, and the world continued changing around them. But through it all, they had each other. Owen passed away peacefully in his sleep at 84, with Zara beside him holding his hand. She was heartbroken but not bitter. They had been given more than most people ever got, more than either of them had dared hope for that day when a deputy marshal rescued a schoolteacher from bandits. Zara lived another 5 years, surrounded by the family they had built. Her children and grandchildren visited constantly, filling her days with love and laughter. She told them stories about their grandfather, about the Wild West days they had never known, about a love that had lasted a lifetime. When she died at 89, it was quietly, in the house Owen had built for her, in the bed they had shared for so many years. Her last thought was of blue eyes and strong hands and a promise kept for over 6 decades. They were buried side by side in the Wichita Cemetery, their matching headstones simple but meaningful. Owen Hayes, beloved husband, father, and lawman. Zara Hayes, beloved wife, mother, and teacher. Together forever, as they had always been meant to be. Their children stood at the graveside, holding their own spouses and children close, understanding in a deep way the legacy their parents had left them. Not wealth or status, but something far more precious. The knowledge that true love exists, that it takes work and commitment and choice, but that it is worth everything. James, now in his 60s himself, stood between his sisters as Thomas read a passage their mother had loved. He thought about his earliest memories of his parents, always together, always loving. The way his father would look at his mother across the dinner table as though she were still that young schoolteacher he had fallen in love with. The way his mother's face would light up whenever his father came home. They had something special, Emma said quietly, echoing his thoughts. They did, James agreed, and they shared it with all of us. The family gathered at the house afterward, filling it with noise and life the way Owen and Zara had always loved. Children ran through the rooms where Zara had once taught them their letters. Adults sat on the porch where Owen and Zara had spent countless evenings. Stories were told, tears shed, laughter shared. As the sun set, painting the Kansas sky in brilliant colors, James stood in the yard looking at the house his father had built with his own hands. A house that had sheltered a love story for the ages, a partnership that had created ripples spreading out through generations. He thought about that day, long before he was born, when a stagecoach was held up on a dusty road. When a deputy marshal arrived just in time to save the passengers, including a brave young woman with auburn hair and a derringer she barely knew how to use. When their eyes met, and something shifted in the universe, bringing 2 souls together who were meant to be one. His father had told him the story many times, how he had helped his mother down from that coach, how even in her fear and shock, He had seen her strength and spirit. How later, when they had begun courting, she would hold his hand during their evening walks. How on one particular evening, when he had kissed her by the creek and told her he was falling in love with her, she had been holding his hand tightly, and the cowboy held tighter and never let go. That image, his father had said, summed up their whole marriage. Holding on to each other through everything life brought. The joys and sorrows, the easy times and the hard ones. They had held tight to each other and to their love, and they had never let go. James looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky and said a quiet thank you to his parents for showing him what love could be. Then he went inside to his own wife and children, determined to carry that legacy forward. In the years that followed, the house remained in the family, each generation adding their own stories to its walls while honoring the foundation Owen and Zara had built. The town continued to grow and change, becoming a modern city that bore little resemblance to the frontier cattle town of 1878. But the story endured. The tale of a deputy marshal and a schoolteacher who found love in the wildest of places and built something that lasted. Their great-great-grandchildren would hear the story, learning about ancestors they had never met but who had shaped their family in profound ways. The simple gold band Owen had given Zara became a family heirloom, passed down through generations. Each bride who wore it felt the weight of the love it represented, the promise it symbolized. To hold on tight and never let go. To choose love every day. To build something lasting. And in quiet moments in that house on the edge of what was once prairie, some family members swore they could feel Owen and Zara's presence. A warmth in the air, a sense of peace and love that lingered in the rooms they had filled with their life together. Because some loves are too strong to be confined by mortality. Some stories are too powerful to ever truly end, and some promises, once made with the whole heart, echo through time itself. Owen Hayes had promised to hold on tight and never let go. He had kept that promise for 50 years of marriage and beyond. And Zara had held on just as tightly, her love unwavering through every season of their shared life. Theirs was a love story born in the Wild West, forged in the challenges of frontier life, and strengthened by daily choice and commitment. It was a reminder that the greatest adventures often begin with a single moment of connection. A hand reaching out, another hand taking it, and two hearts deciding to walk forward together into whatever comes next. As the years turned into decades and the decades into a century, their story became legend in Wichita. The schoolteacher from Boston who came west seeking purpose and found love. The orphaned boy who became a lawman and built a family that would span generations. Two people who should never have met, brought together by bandits and fate and perfect timing, and at the heart of it all that one simple truth. She was holding his hand tightly, the cowboy held tighter and never let go. A promise kept, a love honored, a life well lived together. Their story was complete, their ending happy, their legacy secure. And though Owen and Zara were gone from this world, the love they had shared continued on in the hearts and lives of everyone they had touched. A testament to the power of choosing love, of holding on through everything, of never letting go, in the end. That is what made their story worth telling. Not the drama of the stagecoach robbery or the romance of frontier life, but the simple, extraordinary fact that they had loved each other truly and completely for a lifetime. They had built something beautiful together, and that beauty lived on long after they were gone. It was a love story for the ages, born in the Wild West and lasting forever. And every time someone told the tale, every time a family member spoke of Owen and Zara Hayes, the message was clear. Love like that is possible. Love like that is worth fighting for. Love like that never truly dies. So let their story stand as proof that the best adventures often begin with an unexpected meeting, that the deepest loves grow from genuine connection and daily choice, and that sometimes, if you are very lucky, you find the person whose hand fits perfectly in yours. And when you do, you hold on tight and you never, ever let go.